Get down here, Merc.
I still get goosebumps. All this time later after the game's release, I still get goosebumps. Welcome one and welcome all to my Let's Play of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. In my opinion, the best game of last year. And it's not even close. I love this game so damn much. It is insanely good. And I get to play it at 60 frames per second on the PS5. I get to play it and it looks even better than it already did on the PS4. But genuinely, I'm going to be very excitable and gushing a lot throughout the whole of this Let's Play. Because I've had the original Final Fantasy VII known to me through its entire blood and DNA of how it works and how it is since like 2006 when I first played it. When I was a wee little 7-year-old who didn't know any better, and I just went, wow, this game's amazing. Because I was that kind of kid who liked the niche stuff and liked playing stuff that everyone else didn't. When everyone else was like, oh, play this Call of Duty, here I was playing Lost Odyssey sort of thing. Like, I've always had a knack for like, these kind of games, and Final Fantasy VII just blew me away, and it still stands as one of the greatest games of all time in my opinion, even if it's not my favourite Final Fantasy. My favourite's 4. So the build-up to the 7 Remake was astronomical. Like, if you don't understand how big of a deal the 7 Remake is, watch Maximilian Dude's build-up on it. Look at how excited that dude got building up to this game and how in love he was with the idea of this game being remade from the word go. He like that was felt throughout the entire Final Fantasy community building up to this game, and in my opinion it delivers in spades in ways I never thought they were going to and could never have imagined they were going to. But I need to get into the gameplay. After that initial fight where you level up to level 7, so there's a little nod back to the original where you also leveled up to level 7, we've got a real introduction to the combat here. The combat is a hybrid between action and turn-based that I think works a lot better than any previous iteration of their attempts to make a hybrid between the two. And I certainly prefer this game's combat over 15. As much as I love 15, there's no denying that that game's combat is kind of basic in a lot of ways. As we are in control of the legendary mercenary Cloud Strife. Well, he's not legendary, he's kind of unknown, but to us he's legendary. But the way it works is that square is your attack button. If you hold it in, you'll do a special other attack. Later on, you'll get abilities to get extra combos off it, like Deadly Dodge, where if you attack immediately after a dodge, it'll do a unique attack. Or a parry window, or things like that. There will be alternations and things like that you can get to advance the base combat of your square button. When you press triangle, you alter Cloud's stance into a much more aggressive but less defensive version. And that stance completely gives up defense, but you gain a natural parry and counter strike out of it. But we've got another cutscene, so I'll stop for a second.
So what's Soldier Boy's deal? Is he one of us now? He's got balls, this, what was his name again?
Cloud Strife.
Right.
And he isn't a soldier anymore. Still, he's a professional, unlike the rest of us. I'm glad to have him.
This is a one-time gig. When it's done, we're done.
And here is our introduction to Avalanche, a eco-terrorism organization out to take down this Mako Reactor we are working towards. What this all means and what it all goes into, I will explain as we go on, because if you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, although this game I think does a really good job explaining it for newcomers, there are a couple details that will go over your head as we introduce ourselves to Barrett.
Come on, nobody do something this crazy just for money. They may not think you're a true believer, but you know what I think?
Not interested.
What?
Wedge. You better be worth the money, Merc. Every last gil.
Oh, that iconic shot. The fact that they recreate that. I'm going to be gushing a lot during this. I'm warning you now. As we come up to this guard dog and soldier. If you kill the dog first, you get a bit of unique dialogue from the dude, which is the only reason why I'm going to do it. Additionally, as something that is standard with every JRPG or very big project with a lot of details that I do on this channel, this game is recorded in post. So the audio commentary you are hearing is done after this. This gameplay recording I did a couple days ago. So there will be more room for me to breathe in just talking about things, because I know the gameplay is covered and I'll be covering every detail I want to. There's a chest over there. If you get it, it will spawn more enemies, so go for it, because a little extra experience never hurt anyone. Additionally, you're seeing that you can bring up a command menu. You're not going to see me do it too often once I find my flow, because I love how quick and how constant the gameplay can be once you learn how to use the quick commands. But the command menu is where the JRPG side of things will start to come in, where it's a hybrid of turn-based and action. The turn-based side is in the command menu. As you perform actions in combat, you'll build up a bar underneath your health, called the active time battle gauge. Once it fills up halfway or all the way, you can use a command from your command menu. And the command menu covers everything. It's special skills, it's items and magic. So if you want to use a potion to heal off some damage, and you don't have any ATB left, you're in trouble. You've got to work for it to put yourself in a position to then be able to use an item. It's a very effective way of balancing itself, because if you go all out on the offensive, spamming magic or special skills, and then get caught with your pants down, you're in trouble because you won't be able to use the ATB to heal yourself. You have to strategize as you fight to work out what's the best opportunity to use X, Y, and Z. However, you can equip any of these command spells or items to a quick command menu that's attached to L1. If you've played any Kingdom Hearts, this should be second nature to you. It's the same combat designer as the Kingdom Hearts 2 combat designer, and you can kinda tell. And I mean that in the greatest compliment, because KH2's combat is phenomenal to me, even if it is a little bit spammy. But the VII Remake definitely improves on that original KH2 formula, because this game is nowhere near as spammy. You have to think a lot more. It just carried over a lot of the best attributes of Kingdom Hearts 2's systems, like that shortcut command menu. Which I say you're going to be seeing me use a lot, because every time you bring up the command menu properly, it slows down time to let you think about your actions and go through it to make it more turn-based. With quick commands, you don't do that. You maintain the flow of combat and keep on pushing your way through, making the free flow of combat all the more expansive and allows you to be more expressive with it, because the game never stops if you don't want it to, but will stop if you do want it to. You can slow everything down to a crawl and carefully plan out your strategy whilst the next swing happens, or if you like to keep the gun smoking, so to speak, you can keep on pushing through it. And that's only the very basic level of the combat of this game. It actually goes pretty far, as we'll see as it goes on.
Soldiers may attack on command, but I hear they make good guard dogs too. Bet you've seen a few reactors. So how do we get to the bridge above Mako storage? Ain't holding out on me, are you? Stamp scared to bite the hand that fed him? Or is he a loyal little doggy? Have it your way, Mutt. We can do this with you, or we can do this without you.
Different reactor, different layout. Depends when it was built. Never seen one like this, but I'll manage.
I should talk about what's going on in the plot right now, though. We are Cloud Strife. We are a hired mercenary by the eco-terrorism group Avalanche. Avalanche are attempting to get the world back from these Mako reactors. Mako is essentially the lifeblood of the planet. It is the soul of the planet. And the company that runs all these Mako reactors, Shinra, is draining that energy to be a source of power for the people. So it's the whole nature versus technology kind of thing going on, with Shinra being the technology and Avalanche being representatives of nature. They just do it in a very, very illegal way because, like I said, they're terrorists. There is no saving the day, play the hero kind of situation with this. Also, I go out of my way to show off the box physics because the physics in this game is legendary on its own. Look at that! Look, come on! And the game maintains its frame rate as you like whack everything to the stratosphere.
It's a good thing I know someone who can use the passcodes.
When it comes to cutscenes, of what cutscenes I'll talk over and what ones I won't, minor scenes, as I call them, like things that are either very short or aren't fully motion captured, I'd think what it was called for a second, I will talk over it. If it's like a small scene or if it's not motion captured, I'll talk over it. If it's a bigger significant scene, like the one we're about to get when we go to press this switch, I will shut up for because they're more significant to the bigger picture of what's going on in the narrative. And I don't want to talk over that because I love this game's story so damn much.
So, you know Tifa, right? It's not really my business, but are you guys close?
Cloud! Are you ignoring me?
Tifa and I...
These sewer rats appear to call themselves Avalanche, sir. We are currently investigating whether they belong to the same group that made the attempt on your life. Rest assured, our inquiries will not take much longer.
This pump's sole purpose is to drain the planet dry. While you sleep, while you eat, while you shit, it's here sucking up Mako. It doesn't rest, and it doesn't care. You do realize what Mako is, don't you? Mako is the lifeblood of our world. The planet bleeds green like you and me bleed red. The hell you think's gonna happen when it's all gone, huh? Answer me! You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
Say that again!
I'd worry less about the planet and more about the next 5 seconds. Save the screaming for later.
Our lives are on the line now. You listening, Merc? One false move, and that happens.
Well, so much for having Cloud do all the fighting. There are some places a sword just can't reach. Just bear with him for me, would you?
Yeah.
Should have asked for more money.
Now, after that very long lecture from Barrett, we get to actually play as him, introducing the next level of how this gameplay continues to expand as you go. You can swap to other playable characters as you fight. And not only doing it as you fight, as you strike, mid-combo, you can literally just tap up or down on the D-pad, or left or right if you so choose, if you have it set like that in the options, to alternate between Barrett and Cloud. But you'll also see on Cloud's name it says there's an L2 symbol next to it. If you press L2, you can make Cloud issue a command if he has enough ATB for it. So you can maintain in control of whatever character you want and still tell other characters what to do in a very direct form. Early on, you're gonna see me have a little bit of camera issue, to jump the gun a little bit, where the lock-on goes from here, there to everywhere. It's because I forgot to change it in the settings, and there'll be a point in a couple videos where literally halfway through the video I'll stop what I'm doing, go into the options and change it, because I was just going to try and adjust, and eventually I was like, no, this isn't worth it, I've got to sort this. Because the default is if you lock onto an enemy, if you tap left or right with the right stick, as in like the camera stick, it will snap to a new target. I use the right stick to just course correct my camera whilst I'm fighting an enemy a lot. So it kept on throwing me off because it was throwing my lock on to a different enemy when I was trying to just get a better angle to fight the enemy I was currently fighting. So I changed that to make it so it's left and right on the D-pad change the target lock-on, which makes it so I can only use up and down to swap between party members, but that's fine because it's less of a nuisance. I don't show it off here, but I assure you you're in for a treat if you decide to. If you get beat up by the lasers, Jesse will at first be like, oh no, you nearly got it, you're doing alright, and eventually become more and more humoured by your constant fails and will start making a mockery of you, and it's really charming. But for the sake of showing how it's supposed to be done, I show how it's supposed to be done. The easiest way to look through it is pay attention when the laser comes on. If there's still a glimmer after the laser turns off, it means it's just about to come back on, so trying to pass through it now won't work. You have to wait for the glimmer to be gone as well before you move forward. But if you wait till when the glimmer's gone and then react to it, you will squeeze through, so do not feel pressured that like you've got to try and time it and work it out. If you just wait till the glimmer's gone and move forward, you'll get through. But as we press on, we've got our first mini-boss, this Sweeper. The Sweeper, along with most mechanical things in this game, is weak to electricity, which means I now get to introduce magic. At the start of the game, Cloud begins with only access to fire, but Barrett begins with thunder and cure, which is the same as how it was in the original release. This boss being weak to thunder means Barrett's going to be your best friend, because Barrett's thunder magic is going to do insane damage and build up another thing I need to talk about, the stagger meter. As you injure your enemies and hurt them in various ways, or if you use a focus-based attack like Focus Thrust on Cloud or Focus Shots with Barrett, you will build up the opponent's pressure. If an opponent is stunned, that pressure gauge will skyrocket up regardless of what you do, so going for stuns is always a good idea. When the pressure bar fills up and maxes out, an enemy will stagger, where they'll be completely stopped dead in their tracks and will take 160% damage as opposed to usual. There are ways of boosting that percentage number, but that's later on because it's tied to a character we don't have access to right now. If you can get a rhythm with the stagger, nothing in this game will be able to stand in your way. Even the much greater threats that can whoop your backside in an instant if you let them will start to crumble before you. You will be able to overcome any challenge in this game if you spend the time to figure out what makes enemies weaker, to put more pressure on the pressure gauge to eventually break into their stagger. It's very different for some enemies, and there are unique encounters later on that are hyper specific with what you've got to do to break the stagger, but learning them is the first key to winning the harder fights in this game, so make a habit of experimenting as you go forward, seeing what skills work, what magic works, sometimes even what items work, because you can make the most of those different situations to really put pressure on the opponent. Deliberately giving yourself a status condition like Berserk can work in your favor in getting into the opponent's weaknesses. But once we get here, this is kind of the last stop for this chapter before we press on to the boss. Well, I'll say the last real stop. There's still a couple normal encounters, but I'm going to be wrapping up this first video just before the first boss, which I know makes this video a little shorter, only clocking in at around 25 or so minutes. But if you're new to the channel, and I will say it again for the sake of it, because I know I'm going to pick up a few newcomers covering the VII Remake, since it's still a lot fresher than a lot of the other games I play. Which, if you are new, welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here, and I'm not too much of a cluster of a mess to you, and you enjoy listening to me ramble on. But anyway, to get back on point, I tend to try and keep my videos between 25 and 45 minutes in length if I can help it. There's always outliers, there's always going to be exceptions, but that's the kind of the sweet spot range I always try and go for. And if I cover the boss, I'll want to cover what comes immediately after the boss, and it just started to pile on there that the video would start to get a bit lengthy. So I decided that I would stop just before the boss for this first video. So for the last 40 odd seconds of this video before we wrap up, and I'm still gushing about everything, I want to very quickly talk about Barrett and his significance in Avalanche. You might have already noticed that Jesse talked about it a moment ago, but this branch of Avalanche, like Barrett's ruled branch of Avalanche, is very much looked down upon by the main core version of Avalanche because they're a lot more outgoing and aggressive. Like, they actually fight and cause destruction and pain instead of being more peaceful protest and organized systems. But that being said, I will see you guys next time when we destroy this Mako Reactor. Till then though, take care now, peace.